Let's begin our journey here at this family of retired tugboats, next to the defunct General Mills plant. Up the river, we row, under the infamous sky bridge where tolls are as high as the bridge itself. Nearby, a spot made famous by the TV series Fargo Season 4, starring Christopher Rock. Continuing upstream, we pass underneath a behemoth monstrosity of early 20th century engineering ingenuity. This lift bridge remains in operation to this day. However, its sister bridge was decommissioned in the early 1980s. It is traversed around the clock by coal-carrying locomotives. Let's take a rest here, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the lone soldier that we seek. Andreas von Zerngebel was born in Bavaria on Thursday, March 30th, 1797. He fought in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 with Prussian forces, a battle that led to the defeat of Napoleon. He fought under the leadership of Field Marshal Gebhard Lebrecht von Blücher. Andreas was wounded. They amputated his left arm to stop the spread of disease to his body. After the war, he married Monica, and they had 5 children together. They moved to Chicago in 1854. He bought a 44-acre tract of land at the mouth of the Calumet River from Old Man John's for $160 in golden coins. He continued his trade as a fisherman. This time, instead of fishing the Danube River of his homeland, he was fishing the Calumet River. He caught sturgeon, pike, lake trout, salmon, herring, bass, walleye, perch, catfish, crappie, smelt, whitefish, and steelhead. Only a short salmon's swim from the bridge, nestled atop a ledge, looms a long-defunct railroad control tower. Let's take a closer look inside, and I'll tell you a few more gigabytes about our friend Andreas. He and his family turned their tract of land into a nice family settlement and had built several small houses on the property. Not long after finally having an enjoyable life, he succumbed to a fever and died in Whiting, Indiana on August 21st, 1855. His sons dug his grave and buried him on the land just as he wished. They affixed a wooden gravestone with German inscriptions laid upon it, and surrounded the site with a white picket fence, shrubs, and flowers. Not long after, his family moved to Chicago to seek out new work and opportunities. They left the land in the keeping of a tenant named Margaret's. In 1871, the Great Chicago Fire destroyed the Zerngebel's Chicago apartment. And in that apartment, in a desk, in a drawer, in a wooden box, in an envelope, was the deed to Andreas's land. The family tried to have some new deed drafted by the state. The land went relatively untended to for several years, and the family forgot to pay property taxes on it. In 1885, some wealthy industrial prospectors were eyeing the land for a future industrial development. "It's a prime location for a shipping dock, say you?" "Indeed it is, Jeeves, indeed it is. Now, it appears that this place has some run-down buildings on it, and an old cemetery plot. Nothing a bucket tractor can't fix, say?" So then began a years-long battle between the Zerngebel family and greedy industrialists. They offered a small sum of money to the family to relinquish their land, but the Zerngebels refused to sell. The case was brought to the Supreme Court, saying of the industrialists that the Zerngebels had no real deed to the land and were merely squatters. The court sided strongly with the wealthy industrialists, not surprisingly. The Zerngebels were a tough bunch, and they did not let down easily. Ultimately, they lost claim to the land, but not without one stipulation, that their long-dead relative was to remain there, buried deep in the sandy soil. For years and years, decades and decades, the land was turned over, packed down by heavy machinery used for this and that purpose. It was a barren place for a lone cemetery plot, disturbed by the daily pounding away and crushing of steel. The wooden grave marker had long ago disintegrated, having been replaced here and there, and in 1982 it was officially ran over by a dozer. It was replaced with a proper granite headstone in 1987, gift of the Historic Society, and with the help of remaining Zerngable family members. That stone was struck by a crane and pulverized. So it was said by the crane operator, Louis Escobedo. I was on the opposite side of the gravestone. It was hard for me to see what I was grabbing. I picked up some scrap pipes and they hit against some other pipes. The magnet twisted around and it tapped the tombstone. The owner of the scrap company, Charlie, said, I think it's out of respect that we've got to do that. And he paid $3,600 for a new tombstone to be installed, and it remains to this day. The land is now under the ownership of Sims Metal Management, who controls a scrap metal processing operation at the site.